What I wanted to do is explain the 4 simple steps to be able to get yourself into a home. Now, if this is something you're thinking of doing for a first home, or whether you're looking at doing a dream home or a second home or investment property, these are all still going to be relevant, all 4 of the steps here. First step of what I wanted to do was cover your comfortable weekly repayments. Now, no matter what, this is the most important part. You're going to need to set yourself a bit of a budget and work out what the maximum amount you can afford to pay each week on your weekly repayments, whether it be for an investment property or even if this is your first home, what you can afford on your weekly repayments. So if you're paying $450 a week in rent, what I would be suggesting to do is to start budgeting as to how much you think you can afford on food, future mortgage, your bills, all that kind of stuff. Now, I will attach in the description a couple of free Excel spreadsheets that are really handy. Just download those, fill them out with your living expenses, and that'll basically calculate the rest for you. So that's the very first step, and that's calculating what you're comfortably paying each week on a weekly repayment. Step number 2 is getting an LOE, or what's called a letter of eligibility. Now, a letter of eligibility is once you've met with your building consultant and they've gone through, explain how the building process works, your weekly repayments, the interest-only repayments, for example, during construction, that kind of stuff. You're then going to have them get you in touch with a broker, and that broker will give the consultant what's called a letter of eligibility to show you. A letter of eligibility basically just shows you what the maximum amount you can afford to spend on a home is. Now, this may not be relevant to your weekly repayments quite yet. This is what the banks say you qualify for. Now, this is where your consultant will put it together, and they'll match what you can afford as a weekly repayment with what the maximum amount you can afford is as well. All right, so that takes us to step number 3. Now, step number 3 is looking for land. Now, this is where your building consultant will make it really easy for you to get this process right. They'll match your weekly repayments with the maximum amount you can afford. So what I mean by that is, let's say for the maximum amount you can afford is $400,000, okay, which is going to give you a $400 a week weekly repayment. Now, if you can only afford a $300 per week weekly repayment, the consultant shouldn't be taking you up and won't take you up to the maximum of a $400 a week weekly repayment. Whereas if you can afford, maybe, for example, the letter of eligibility says you qualify for a $800,000 loan that's going to give you $800 a week of weekly repayments, and you're comfortable with spending that amount, the broker then knows to take you up to that amount or whatever the comfortable weekly repayment is for you. So that's why I said the first step is your comfortable weekly repayments. Now, when you're looking at land with the broker, with the consultant, they'll actually take you out to the block or send you out to a few different blocks of land. The benefit is they have access to land that you will not have access to. They've got access to a database of land that gets sent directly through to them that there's not on the market quite yet, that generally speaking may be a better block, or they may give you discounts. There's a lot of other benefits on those blocks of land. So that's where they're really going to assist you. So they'll actually meet you out at a block of land, for example, one in, say, Perth, Byford, wherever it may be, Baldivis. You'll sit down, they'll show you the block of land, you'll meet out there, they'll show you where the shops, schools, public transport, all the future facilities are going to be built or are built already. They'll also show you the services on the block, or the important things you know about the block, or what you need to know, for example, like how big your backyard is approximately going to be, where your garage is going to be located, the solar orientation, little bits and pieces like that. Okay, so step number 4 and the final step. This is where the consultant's going to show you what house fits on that block of land that you've picked, that both the house and land also, as we go back to the very beginning, have got to fit within your budget that you can afford each week. Now, when you're looking at house plans, the consultant may suggest they take you to a display home. I personally don't think that's the best way of doing it. Display homes are generally the building industry or the builder's best home. So they've got the best of everything in there. If they're trying to say that you're getting something similar for your first home, not many people really want to overspend as much as a display home. Obviously, they look nice, but if you're spending $600,000 on a home that's worth $400,000, it's not a great investment. So what I'd be suggesting is walking through a home that's under construction, or a home that's just recently been finished that's not a display home. That way you'll get a realistic expectation. You'll probably get a better gut feeling as to what you feel the quality of the home is like as well. Another little tip here is to make sure that you leave it up to the pros. So leave it up to the building consultant and the designer to design your home completely. Don't leave it up to your building consultant just alone, or don't do it yourself. Quite often that can lead to overcomplication of plans where they think they look amazing on a piece of paper, but you've got to remember these designers have gone and done a whole bunch of training to be able to get you a home that can easily fit furniture in. If you start playing around with that too much, you may come back with a home that looks great on paper, but realistically the finished product may not be as good as it could be. Now, there's a lot more information. There's a whole nother range of videos that I'm going to do on these 4 things or these 4 steps in a lot more detail. But these are the first 4 steps you need to remember. The first one is your comfortable weekly repayments. You need to make sure you do qualify by getting proof the broker says you qualify. You need to find yourself a block of land with your consultant and also follow their lead on the design of your home as well. So they're the 4 simple steps. Hopefully, if you learned something, click down below. You'll see my Instagram, Facebook, and my TikTok. Have a little watch of some of those videos and hopefully they're relevant to you as well.